say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because holy forking shirt balls! We basic, basically. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, The Crown, Once Upon a Time, 13 Reasons Why, A Series of Unfortunate Events, Fuller House, and Westworld. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Grace and Frankie, Doctor Who, Gotham, Schitt's Creek, Arrested Development, Game of Thrones, Supernatural, Will and Grace, Stranger Things, iZombie, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Orange is the New Black. The Marvel's Defenders panel will talk Season 2 of The Punisher. The DCTU will revisit all 4 shows in the CW's Arrowverse. And the Star Trek 50+ series will talk Season 3 of the original series. We'll be launching new panels covering Jane the Virgin, The Americans, Riverdale, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Altered Carbon, Mr. Robot, and Charmed. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll take a smallish look back at a short-term show from some kind of yesteryear called Freaks and Geeks. We'll reminisce about the majesty of rain, and we'll revisit one of the all-time and most-watched classic sitcoms, MASH. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows and Comic-Cons. We just went live from Blue Bridge Games to take a shiny look back at Firefly. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, so make sure you follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Just don't solve your problems by throwing Molotov cocktails at us or snapping us into a life-ending void. You have other options. Today we're around the water cooler and discussing Season 3 of heady philosophical comedy, The Good Place. Season 3 aired from September 27, 2018 to January 24, 2019 on NBC with a total of 13 episodes. To remind the listener, The Good Place focuses on Eleanor Shellstrap, played by Kristen Bell, a woman who wakes up in the afterlife and is introduced by Michael, played by Ted Danson, to The Good Place, a heaven-like utopia he designed in reward for her righteous life. She realizes that she was sent there by mistake, but decides to hide her morally imperfect behavior and to try to become a better person. William Jackson Harper, Jamila Jamil, and Manny Jacinto co-star as other residents of The Good Place, while Darcy Carden plays Janet, an artificial being helping the inhabitants. Each episode features flashbacks from one of the main characters and ends with a cliffhanger leading into the following episode. In Season 3, realizing that the group has been falling back into their old patterns despite their second leases on life, Michael repeatedly interferes, without Judge Jen's knowledge and against her explicit orders, in order to manipulate the so-called Soul Squad of Eleanor, Chidi, played by Harper, Tahani, played by Jamil, and Jason, played by Jacinto, into finding each other. They all end up in Sydney, Australia, where Chidi teaches, and become participants in a study about near-death experiences and ethical decision-making, which produces further revelations about each other, their circumstances, and themselves. Additionally, in December 2018, NBC renewed the series for a 13-episode fourth and final season, which is set to premiere on September 26, 2019. The Good Place panel experienced a changeover since its last water cooler convention. One panelist departed the podcast for life's greater journeys. One panelist departed the panel for life's greater obligations. 4 panelists remain, and an additional panelist, new to the panel, but not to the podcast, joins them to further dissect what is quite possibly one of the most intelligent comedies to grace the network airwaves in years. Before we get started, of course, I'm going to take a moment to take the panel's temperature. After all, sometimes a show can take a turn for the better or worse in our heads, or can continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof, depending upon its story evolution. Thus, as always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have watched all episodes of all available seasons of The Good Place to date, and may discuss sensitive plot points, which actually exist in this unusual half-hour comedy. So for those of you who have not watched any of The Good Place and plan to do so at some point, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hey.
Hi, Blue.
Hi there.
Hi. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Great.
Yeah, good.
Ready to talk about The Good Place?
Always.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm dying to talk about this show.
Literally?
Well, no, not literally. I mean,
It would be very fitting for the show that we're talking about, but I take your point, Michael. So, we're going to talk about The Good Place, of course, Season 3, and what we're going to do. Now, first of all, we have a brand new panelist, as I mentioned, new to the panel, but not to the podcast. We will introduce her in a second. Before I do that, though, I'm going to gauge your interest in The Good Place after watching Season 3, along our standard character question, which changes with each show we do. I have slightly tweaked this character question, although not much, but slightly. I'm going to read it. You're going to answer. You know how this works. Are you ready?
ready.
Yeah. Nope.
Awesome. So I will read this, and also for the listener, we are doing this in our all-online format today, so if there's any weird kind of quality to the sound, I'm doing my best, but it's kind of how we work at CPU. We're a podcast by the people, for the people. Haha. So how would you rate your interest in The Good Place Season 3 after you finish watching? Did you love it? You believe you are legitimately exhibiting some kind of affection for it because your programming is evolving, not because you're real or a girl or anything human, though maybe you're getting closer since it seems that anything is possible in the afterlife. Still, after repeatedly watching it over and over and over, you've realized that the act of watching it has made you smarter, better, and more human, and that you really might love it in a genuine human way after all, and even as much as you love Jason. Like Janet, do you find it to be a true breath of fresh air in an otherwise lifeless TV landscape, not unlike yourself, though you wish you better understood what you were watching at times? In addition, you find yourself drawn to the romance of it all, such as the relationships of Eleanor and Chidi, or Jason and Janet, and you encourage watching it whenever possible for those elements, even as you yearn for true love of your own, like Tahani El-Jamil. You love Janet. She's nice. And dancing. And your crew, who dances and occasionally commits petty theft with you, especially Pillboy, and Donkey Doug, and J-Town, and Janet again, and what were we talking about? Like Jason Mendoza. There are parts of it that you like, and parts of it, including possible characters that you don't like, but you are committed to seeing the show improve itself somehow, if possible, and you'll forking do whatever you can to stay engaged because it's the right thing to do. Probably, like Eleanor Shellstrop. You can't decide how or if you like it. I mean, you really can't decide about the show or anything else, ever, except for maybe 1 or 2 winning characters that have managed to quell your indecision, however difficult it is to do so, like Eleanor. Still, you've been debating the merits of this show about philosophy, which may even address or reference some of your personal heroes for the better part of years, and you still really haven't landed on an opinion of your own, like Chidi Anagonye, or you don't like it as much as other shows, though you're starting to warm up to it, despite your truer nature and your self-proclaimed better judgment. Still, it didn't turn out to be what you expected, and some of it's personally quite frustrating to you. But you'll persevere because you find small ways to relate to it in spite of yourself, which reminds you that you can never truly hate it in the end, though you'll always hate Sean, like Michael, who would like to start.
I am once again Lord Garrett.
Who are you? What is your name?
Oh, sorry, I'm Selene.
Hi, Selene.
Hi.
That's the
Janet.
first
She's
question.
Janet now.
She was Janet last time. You're always Janet.
I can't help it.
So why
The
are
show
you?
is so good, and so is Janet.
Fair enough. That sums it up pretty well. Welcome back, Selene.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next because she's looking at me. It's Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, me. Last time I was Janet with a little bit of Jason, and I think I was a little bit of Jason because I love Janet so much. So I'm gonna say that I'm still Janet with a little bit of Jason because I still love Janet because she's awesome.
Okay. Fair enough. Welcome back, Kelsey.
Thanks.
So hi, I'm Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Michael.
Hi. So last time I was definitely a Tahani because I was into the relationships and I absolutely love the spiritualness of this show. But I think I'm changing a little bit based on this season. This is going to sound like a terrible cop-out probably, but I'm still definitely mostly Tahani, but I think I'm a blend of both Janet and Eleanor
Okay.
on top of that. So it's mostly Tahani. I'm still very much into the thinking it's a breath of fresh air and that I just love it so much. I do wish I better understood the philosophy and everything. I love it like Janet, but I don't watch it over and over again. So I didn't think I was a full Janet on that. And I think I'm like Eleanor because I think there's room for improvement in the fourth season. And I think I'll get into that once we start the discussion.
All right. Foreshadowing. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. So last time I was Janet with a little bit of Tahani, and I'm sticking with it. I still love the show, and it's wonderful, and it's a breath of fresh air. So sticking with my girls, Janet and Tahani.
Okay. Welcome back, Kristen. And before I do myself, we have our brand new panelist who's new to the panel, not to the podcast. New panelist, would you tell us your first name, how you came to discover The Good Place, what made you start watching, what kept you watching, how'd you find out about it, that old chestnut, and then tell us where you fall on the character question post season 3.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Krista.
Hi, Krista.
And I don't remember why I started watching it. I think I ran out of shows and it was there.
Okay, as one does.
Which isn't a great reason, but I did no research on it, so the twist at the end of season 1, I was blown away. I was blown away, and then it was hooked. So I think I am a Tahani with a little bit of Jason and Eleanor.
Okay, because
I really love it and I think it's a breath of fresh air. And sometimes I like it for the stupid and silly, like Jason. But sometimes I think they take bits a little too far, and sometimes it's too many ups and downs and too much of a Jeremy Bear me.
Okay, nice tie into this season. And welcome to the panel, Krista. Krista appears on many of our other panels. She moderates the Crown panel and appears on Orange is the New Black and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and some of our English ones like Broadchurch and that. Gilmore Girls you were on.
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey. Yes, all of those. So welcome to the Good Place panel, Krista.
Welcome. It's fine.
Everything is fine.
Everything is fine. Yes, true. And everything's so fine because now it's my turn. So I'm Kylie. I'm moderating as well as participating on this panel because of things that we discussed in the season 1 and 2 episode that we recorded last year. Last time I was Janet and Tahani. I am still there. I love this show. Thanks, Kristen, for needling me for many, many months to watch it. And then
You're welcome.
And I'm also a Tahani because I do think it's a true breath of fresh air. I don't think I'm a breath of fresh air, but I think it is a breath of fresh air. And I do enjoy the romances. Eleanor and Chidi a little bit more than Jason and Janet, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the whole darn thing, in fact. In fact, for this show, and only for this show in the history of CPU, have I gone crazy thorough as opposed to just regular thorough with the plot points, because so much happens in a 13 episode span. I don't even know how to say what is more important and what is less important. maybe you can do that. So we'll talk about season 3. What did you like? What didn't you like? It's the standard question. Go.
So my big thing throughout this season is that I think it was like kind of like a reverse bell curve on how well things worked out. It started out so amazingly strong with like the way it resolved the season 2 cliffhangers with the idea of how did they get back to the real world and everything. That was amazing. And I think the show on the back half of this season was just great, starting with I would almost put it at like the point at which Janet fought everybody in the bar in Canada. Like that was an amazing scene, and it just stayed amazing for the rest of the season. But I think there was this middle part that was kind of a little bit of a slog and a lot of turning wheels. There were some great moments, but it was just kind of, okay, let's get on with it. That's a general statement about the season. I don't know how anyone else feels.
I'd have to agree with you. I think that's pretty much how I felt too.
What was something that you liked about like the beginning ending?
Well, in the beginning, I really liked the Simone, honestly, like having Simone in there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the relationship dynamic between Chidi, Simone, and Eleanor, and how I genuinely liked Simone and Chidi together and didn't feel upset having Eleanor there because they felt like they were such a solid like couple and a friend.
Yeah.
And then in the end, bringing back Simone after Chidi and Eleanor had gotten together, and that entire just like boom of a, can't even think of the word.
A mind F, because we don't want to use the actual
mind
word.
fork.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Dang it. I can't believe I missed the best moment.
You're welcome.
Way to stay on brand.
My improv skills are not good. I've used them all up this weekend. Anyway.
It's okay, Michael. We forgive you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yes, bringing Simone back was a great idea. And I have something to say about relationships, but I'll say that for everyone else's other things.
I actually, while we're talking about the relationships, I felt like they were really forced.
Yes, okay, I was going to say that. I was actually going to say that. I'm surprised somebody's agreeing with me.
Yeah, I did cry in the last episode when they were doing like the Chidi and Eleanor, when they were watching their stuff and they were about to like be separated again and he wasn't going to remember her. Like I totally bawled. And I was like ugly crying, and I was like, this is stupid. I'm really mad at this show right now because I wasn't planning on crying.
Yeah, right.
And I'm really mad. Like, I did cry, so I obviously still care about their relationship, I guess. But, like, it just kind of felt like they were like, hey, remember when Chidi and Eleanor were a thing? Let's pull that out of nowhere and plant it back in your brains, because they were doing so well as like a platonic friendship couple, and that was fine. And I felt fine with that. And especially because they had Simone and Chidi and they were such a good couple, I was fine with this timeline being one where Chidi and Eleanor didn't get together.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that Simone and Chidi are so good together, and it's a huge pain. It really is painful to have her there in the bad place, essentially. And then he has to, the agony that he's in seeing her there, that I felt that more than any time that Eleanor and Chidi were playing googly eyes with each other. And I think that's the way it is in general, but that's just because my overall theory of this show is that they're all each other's soulmates. That if you focus on any one pairing, it just doesn't feel as good as when they're all together making each other better.
So now I'm going to spring you in with a counterpoint, Michael, because you did say that in our last episode, that was your overall theory. And in fact, there is a little bit of, I think, a stronger thematic undercurrent around that idea in season 3 even, as opposed to seasons 1 and 2. So then if they're all each other's soulmates, even if Eleanor and Chidi weren't romantic, and I do agree with the force thing when it comes to Jason and Janet, to me, that felt a little bit like, oh, remember when Jason and Janet were a thing? Even though Janet's always loved Jason, Jason is so vacuous and vacant that bringing him back to the Janet place and loving her felt like they were strong-arming it. Eleanor and Chidi felt somewhat organic to me, only because Michael did give us that huge flashback episode where he showed her all of the different iterations of their relationship and the 800 different good places that they've lived in. So if you're all soulmates, Michael, how does Simone fit into that equation at all?
That is such a good question. I have no idea. I hope that ends up getting addressed in the final season. Gosh, wouldn't it be weird if the whole thing was like humanity in general is soulmates for everyone in a weird sort of way? That's a weird thing that I literally just came up with now.
That's kind of a weird Mr. Rogers ending, Michael. I'm not going to lie to you.
Right.
I don't know if I could subscribe to that. I mean, I'm very hippie-ish, but I don't think I could even subscribe to that.
People who need people.
Yes, thank you.
Wheel Barbara Streisand on, you know.
I think we're just sending the clowns, people.
We haven't had one yet, so.
Haven't had one what? Barbara Streisand?
The musical episode.
Yeah, they should do
You
that.
know Kristen Bell can sing.
And they could totally do like a subversion of the musical episode, and it happens entirely in the bad place.
I'm down for that. Producers,
They
if
can
you're
do
listening.
Right, yes.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
So we kind of jumped around a bit, but what do you other ladies think about sort of the progression of the season and the relationships aspect of it, since we've hit on that pretty heavily?
I tend to agree with what everybody else is saying. It starts out really fun, and as soon as they were going to break up, I'm like, no, they cannot break up the Soul Squad. They all have to be together, otherwise the dynamic just doesn't work as well. It only works as well if they're all together. That's kind of the point of the show. So those episodes where they were all split up, I mean, they have some bright moments. Donkey Dog is wonderful, and Tahani and her sister, I mean, that episode, the Budapest one, really dragged for me. The one with Eleanor's mom. Like, I get that they needed it, ish, but that was a really slow one for me. The one in Canada was delightful. And the one with Nicole Byer as the mail lady was fun, too.
Oh my god, she was amazing.
Yeah. It
Also,
felt like they rushed towards the end.
Yeah, I could see
like,
that.
they rushed. They had tons of time because they spent a lot of time doing stuff they didn't necessarily need to do. And then they kind of ran to the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I could totally
agree with that.
I agree with that too, but you mentioned some 3 key episodes. The Donkey Dog episode, I don't know what the episode is called, but when Eleanor finds her real mom, who's played by Leslie Grossman, playing Donna Shellstrop, a.k.a. Diana Tremaine. And then you also mentioned the older Doug Forsett, deep in the heart of Canada, played by TV legend Michael McKean, yes, and also Mr. Green from Clue, let us not forget that, which are all, to me, varying episodes in terms of entertainment and quality. I like Donkey Dog a lot just because I think any episode that gives Jason a chance to shine a little bit, because otherwise he's kind of an off character to the side making his Jason remarks, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of really good. Yeah, exactly.
Boy.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's a serious one.
Okay.
Is Pillboy Jason's brother?
I don't know.
No, he's a friend.
No. Are we sure? Because he was living with Donkey Doug, and he calls his dad Donkey Doug. So, like, why would he not call his brother Pillboy?
I don't think it's his brother.
Okay.
I always interpreted it as like a best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. But, like, then I was like, well, maybe. It's a question I have.
That's an interesting question. I think it's possible. There's nothing to show us that it's impossible right now, but I do think we're supposed to take that he's just a best friend, kind of like an Eddie Haskell that hangs out over there all the time and, you know, does the crime and so forth.
Right.
So there's that episode, which was really, really fun. Now, you also mentioned going to Nevada. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm not a super fan of Leslie Grossman. She's become a regular player on the American Horror Story seasons, and I find her to always be the weakest link, and I found her to be the weakest link here as well. I can see why they went for her on the one hand, she does affect some similar mannerisms, and her and Kristen Bell's characters could kind of meet each other in the middle, but she's also not that much older than Kristen Bell, so it was really hard for me to suspend disbelief, even if she was, I know she was a young mom anyway, but it was just too close, and I didn't really care about that story.
I felt that was weird, especially because Donkey Doug also didn't look that much older than Jason.
Yeah.
Except that he had a beard. And so I was like, why are their parents the same age as them? I'm so confused.
Well, I appreciate the fact that they at least used the same actress. Like Leslie Grossman was in the flashbacks when Eleanor was a child, so they ended up using the same actress when she was an adult. So, I mean, I kind of appreciated that, and I just took it as the whole thing. It's like, oh, she's probably had plastic surgery done in order to make herself look exactly the same as she did, 20 years ago.
I guess she was more palatable when it was smaller amounts of time, when she had a whole episode to kind of explain away her character evolution, which...
For what it's worth, I just used the Google, and Kristen Bell is 39, and the actress who plays her mother is 47.
Yeah, that's 8
Really?
years.
Yeah.
That's actually, I didn't realize she was that much older, though.
Or not that much older, as is the case. So, I just...
Yeah, it's only 8 years, but still.
That was probably my least favorite episode, I think, of the 13. Because that is one where they were separated, and I agree that when the Soul Squad separated, that was kind of the more dragging part of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because you did kind of desperately want them all to get back together. I do appreciate the glimpse into Doug Forsett, and I love the fact that they chose Michael McKean to play him. But even taking an entire 30 minutes to determine that no matter what he did, he could never get into the good place, felt a little extraneous at times. That's just me.
Honestly, if the episode hadn't ended with the Janet fight, I think that episode would have been the least exciting one for me.
Yeah, exactly. But let's face it, Janet redeems everything.
I will have to segue off of that, because my favorite episode this season was the one in Janet's Void, where every character was played by Janet in Janet's Void.
Darcy Carden. Oh my goodness.
Amazing. I love her so much, and I want to see all the Janet. All the Janets all the time. It gave some great opportunity for just to show off not only her skills and how she's able to imitate these, the members of the Soul Squad that we know and love, but I loved it when it was Janet who was actually Eleanor pretending to be Jason talking to Chidi, who was also all Janet.
I do not think Darcy Carden got an Emmy nomination for that episode, and that is a huge, gigantic crime because it was a brilliant performance by her. She was able to get everybody's
mannerisms and tips. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think they got many nominations at all this year, and that's also a crime in and of itself. But yeah, that episode was brilliant. Darcy Carden was amazing in that episode.
Yeah. Also neutral Janet.
Beige Janet.
She is really just... I mean, the show is so good on its own, and it's so smart. And the fact that they've found a way to explore all of these philosophical threads in a half-hour comedy in a shortened season is incredible all by itself. But this Janet character, I can't even tell you. She's like the gold star in every episode.
Yeah, she's the highlight. She is a comedy queen, and I love everything that they've given her to play with. There hasn't been a Janet moment that I haven't liked.
Agreed. And her buddy cop thing with Michael, Ted Danson's Michael, that's just excellent.
I like how she was like the voice of reason when Michael was ready to just throw everything out and start over from scratch yet again after 800 iterations. She was like, we can't keep doing this. And the genuineness that she had in that episode was just so great.
Well, she is learning real human emotion.
Yeah.
That's true.
She can lie now and get really jealous over Jason and punch out a few people if she's connected to a portal. Because she can't access her powers on Earth, Oh, she's great. So what else did you like? Or was there anything you didn't like?
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna just jump in real quick. I'm over Simone. I know everybody else really loves her. But
Really?
I'm very over her. I would be very happy if she was actually secretly an agent of the bad place. I'm done. She served her purpose. It was cute in the beginning, but now I'm just like, over it.
Wow. That is
it's
very surprising.
It's nothing against her or the actress or anything. I'm over Simone. I want to focus more time on the Soul Squad and then hopefully maybe really getting into the real good place at the end of next season.
Okay, but she's going to be kind of an important part of the next season because she's going to be one of the 4 characters, 2 of which we haven't even met yet, who are going to be the ones that are there, the new experiment. Mm-hmm. So that's something when we get into the discussion about what we want to see for season 4, that's something I'll be interested in seeing. Right there.
I have 2 reactions. The first is I didn't jump on the Simone parade. I'm actually more where you are, Kristen. I thought she had her place in the beginning of the season, and she was a great counterpoint to a platonic Eleanor and Chidi who didn't really know about each other. But when Michael introduced their history, and then she became, or will become, the torture piece for Chidi in this new bad place, good place at the end of the season, that's going to feel probably a little bit like recycled love triangle trope in the end.
Yep.
And also I would theory, prediction, Chidi is Eleanor's torture device.
Probably.
Because now he's forgotten her, and that's probably a little bit of what was intended.
He'll be one of the new
4
members of the experiment.
My understanding was that he won't be a new one. Like, he will be like a 5th one, essentially, of a new person.
I think he's going to be one of the 4.
I think he's going to be one of the 4, too. I think they deliberately gave us that last scene to imply that he was going to be her challenge in this new bad place. Good place, bad place.
But I guess my only quibble with that is how does that fit in with the new experiment? Because the whole point, he's already improved somewhat himself over 800 iterations. So how does he fit into this new experiment that Sean and Jen have created?
Does he choose Simone or Eleanor? He has to make another choice.
Yep.
Okay, I guess I could see that.
Yeah,
because cheating torture is always going to be his indecisiveness.
Correct, and he doesn't. I mean, there's nothing that said. There was nothing announced that the people that they were admitting into the good place were going to be specifically different people. They just said that they were going to try it on,
Well, it was 4 people that Sean picked out himself, and did Sean pick out Chidi?
No, I don't think that's what the point was. The point was that he had picked out 4 other people to torture them, and then they called foul, and the judge was like, yeah, but you're not going to take any of the 2 back that have already been taken. Now we're going to reset the last 2.
Oh, I missed that.
So it could be Chidi.
I completely missed that.
Yeah, so if they reset it, it could be Chidi.
So there was like a line or something where they said that Sean's 4 choices were not going to be used.
The other 2, because he had the 4 choices, and then
but they were all 4 designed to be torture for the 4 people.
Yeah,
of the Soul Squad.
And then Michael and Janet were like, no.
Yeah, but then I thought Jen said, well, there was no stipulation that I swear there was like
the judge then was like, no, okay, good, but
we're going to even things out.
But we're going to make it going forward. The other 2 have to be not,
associated
personally.
Huh? Yeah. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I trust you're right, but that completely went over my head. Oh well, maybe I should watch these episodes over and over again, I guess.
Yeah. Which is why I wonder if Chidi can be the other person then, though, because if he is... he wouldn't be intentionally there to torture Eleanor.
Well, I don't think torturing the Soul Squad is the point anymore.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but they were just saying he would be Eleanor's torture, but that's not the idea anymore.
It's not the intention, but it is going to be.
Right.
Because Eleanor can handle it better than Chidi can.
Didn't Chidi say something about how they needed all 4 of them to, make it work?
He'll still be there, and I think with the right guiding of all of them, it'll happen still. I think it's just going to be him outside of the loop. I bet you it's going to be... My prediction is that Eleanor is going to go up to him and be like, hey, dude, so I kind of made a mistake, and I need your help in teaching these people how to be good in the good place because I'm the fake architect and my bad.
Kind of like a whole Lost thing where it's like it's going to be kind of like a rehash of the first season, sort of like how the last season of Lost was sort of a rehash of the first season of Lost.
I mean, maybe. Celine's never seen Lost.
I can't agree, but...
Well, I mean, Michael Schur has said that he modeled the show after Lost. I mean, so in many ways,
Really?
He's totally admitted that. He's admitted that he's modeled the show exclusively after Lost. That's why there's the flashback mechanic of every episode, that every episode has a flashback, is because that he got that from Lost.
We did talk about that in our last recording. Michael had mentioned that. I can see that happening. Where we get a little bit of our own sideways good place, actually, because I think the mechanic that made all of this possible, and you know, we're talking about Sean's original design, but Sean's original design did not factor in for Michael as the architect having a panic attack and then folding under the pressure and Eleanor having to pose as the fake architect. That's an unpredictable variable, which Michael actually hints at earlier in the season when they're in the bar and he's talking about all of the iterations in which Chidi and Eleanor have fallen in love. And before he throws the iced tea on her, she's talking about how she thinks everything is deterministic. And he says, but that can't be true because you were always the unpredictable variable. And now, that was, I think, kind of a foreshadowing to the fact that she's now become the architect. So she's, for no other reason than to keep the experiment running, because Michael has gone into a fetal position in the corner. Now everybody's going to think she's in charge, and her brand of being in charge will be much different than Michael's brand of being in charge. So that's
true, yeah.
Yeah, so whether intended as a torture device or not, whether we're going to meet separate people or not, I think the whole experiment's already been thrown off its axis based on the pure fact of the matter that Eleanor is going to be the face of the project, as well as
that conversation, by the way, between Michael and Eleanor, where they're talking about the philosophy, was one of the best elements, the best ways they've talked about the philosophy on the show, I think. That was such a great scene.
Well, we can't also forget Chidi's meltdown in the classroom, because it actually highlights
Oh, I love his little chili babies.
Yes. Because he actually highlights 4 major philosophical areas of thought, which actually are supposed to represent each of the 4 Soul Squad members.
Oh, that's right, yes.
That's fun. That was fun that he made chili with lots of crappy stuff in it, like Lucky Charms and stuff.
And then he used the coconut song. You put the lime in the coke. I love that. Yep. He used that song.
Are you still feeling Chidi-ish, Michael? Do you still identify with him a lot?
Oh, totally. Definitely. Oh, my goodness. The way he reacted to Jeremy Bear Me, I was watching in my room, and I had to pause the episode because I was laughing so hard at his reaction to Jeremy Bear Me. The way he was just like, what is that? The little circle. And it's like, oh, that's just, that's just Tuesday. And he's like, that broke me. And he just walks away. It's just, oh my God. I was laughing hysterically at that. And I think Jeremy Bear Me needs to totally overtake Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey from Doctor Who. And from now on, we just always describe Jeremy Bear Me as why is this time travel thing happening? Jeremy Bear Me. And that's the answer.
Okay, I enjoy that episode a lot, but I cannot subscribe to what you are advocating right now.
I agree with Kylie, and I think we should replace Jeremy Bear Me with Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey because it's easier to understand.
Yes. It makes more sense. And it's more iconic still at this point.
Now I'd also like to invoke a callback to one of our On the Couch With episodes. Remember, Krista, when you asked Selene, what's your Jeremy Bear Me? Exactly how did you...
So I asked her, where in the Jeremy Bear Me are you?
Well, okay, whatever. What did you want her to answer? What's the expectation? What would your answer be now that you understand what Jeremy Bear Me, if you understand what Jeremy Bear Me is? I'm not sure I do.
My gut instinct is to say the dot on the I just because, but I don't actually think that that's where I'm at. I would probably be at one of the swoops on, like Bear Me, or like the big B that is just like a loop going back and forth, and I don't know where I am in time and honesty.
Oh my.
You heard it here first, people.
Serious question about Jeremy Bear Me. When Janet is pointing at it and saying, that's where I was born, where is she pointing? Is she pointing on the line, or is she pointing off the line? Because it looks like, I swear to God, she's pointing off the line, and it's like just off on the whiteboard somewhere.
That would make sense to me.
Right.
I think we've got a Janet void, so why wouldn't she have been born in a void of some point?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
I didn't pay that much attention, but you're probably right that she pointed to the white space. I was still trying to wrap my head around Jeremy Bear Me, other than that.
I don't even remember that. That was also probably improvised.
Oh, more than likely, yes.
Time looks like this. I'll just call it Jeremy Bear Me. Of course you do.
But I like the way they revealed it, too. The way, he's scribbling something on the whiteboard. You see Michael's back. You don't know what he's scribbling. And then suddenly he walks back, and there's this Jeremy Bear Me signature. And yes, it's a complete continuous line with a little swoop of an I dot that is completely separate from everything. I don't know. I laughed hysterically at that.
It was funny. I just like wibbly wobbly timey wimey, and you can't overtake Doctor Who. Okay.
All right, fine. I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm going to use Jeremy Bear Me from now on.
I'll just mix it up depending on what mood I'm in.
There you go. Okay, that works.
Gemini.
Yeah, that tracks. That totally tracks. So how did you enjoy the fact that they were actually, for at least a good portion of the season, on Earth and in Australia, where they were having this study, because it really was a huge phase of the season? Yes, student Kelsey.
How did they all just have the ways and means to get to Australia?
That is a fabulous question, other than Tahani is clearly rich.
And Elmer won the lottery.
Yeah, that was all Michael's doing, I think.
That was after. That was after. Yeah.
Yeah, they won the lottery after, yeah.
Okay.
She was starting to run out of money while she was there because she didn't have a job.
Yeah, she was going to go home, and Michael was like, here, somehow
she was going to get a job, and Michael was worried that would take away from her time with Chidi and the study, so he got her to win the lottery.
Exactly, yeah.
Janet, actually, got her to win the lottery.
Can I just backtrack slightly to our Doctor Who / Good Place discussion? I want the Doctor and Janet to meet. I'm just saying. I think that would be the great
epic crossover. I'm on board. Let's make this happen.
That would be a better relationship than her and Jason. Just okay, that is true.
That is kind of a puzzler, that Janet and Jason. I mean, I know they were married and she's clinging to one of those iterations, and that's kind of the seed of her evolution, but Jason is Jason. That's all.
Well, I think it has a lot more to do with the fact that Jason intrinsically allows her to be as human as possible in a way that nobody else does, just because he's Jason. And I think that's why she's attached to him.
Yeah.
Because he treats her more
like a person,
like everybody else than anybody else does. And I'm not sure that she necessarily wants to be like everybody else. She just wants to be viewed as valuable for more than everything she can do for people.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, that's very wise and astute, Selene. I'll give you that. But still, they're awkward.
I mean, I agree it was funny in that one episode in the first season, but the fact that they keep coming back to it kind of does... They just haven't developed it further.
Yeah.
They haven't devoted a lot of time to it. And that, it seems to be because they're doing the whole thing like, Jason and Tahani are forming a connection. And that seems to be like a wedge.
They just have a life partner money thing.
Yeah, but she's got some feelings for him. That's what they kind of hinted even though...
That's also weird.
Yes, and they're not strong, but that time they spend in the actual good place, in the post office situation, I mean, that's part of what they discuss there is, you know, she actually does love him and care for him in a real way, but knows that he loves Janet, and so kind of lets the little bird fly to the other person while still having a little twinge of something for him herself.
I slightly disagree in that I feel like Jason doesn't love Janet yet. I think Tahani just sees Janet liking Jason and thinks, well, I don't have any true connection. I'm putting air quotes on that because I think Tahani is in denial about the connection she has with Jason, because once again, I think it's Jason doesn't want anything from her, and that's refreshing for her. And I think that her attraction to Jason, or maybe not attraction, but like that instinctual connection that they have, is one of the few things that feels the most organic throughout the entire show for me. Because even though they don't actually connect, I think they're comfortable with each other in a way that I can't explain it. I just think that Jason and Tahani, it feel right. Maybe not in a like actual relationship way, but like their friendship is very pure in a way because they don't need anything from each other, so they can just be.
I could see that. Yeah. I mean, I think when Tahani and Jason were giving money away, that really worked well because I feel like she had the money, he had the somewhat altruistic bent going at that point, so it really worked and gelled well.
And I think it allows her to see the world in a way that she's never done before without feeling talked down to or like, you need to do this for other reasons. It just lets her be herself in a way that she's never gotten to do because she's always been talked to differently and rudely, or
you're talking about Janet still, or you're talking about Tahani?
No, Tahani still.
Okay. You make a very impassioned speech and logic about this, Selene. I guess I agree. I mean, I think you're convincing me of all of this, but I still also think there's a little bit of wistfulness about Tahani. Maybe it's denial, like you said, but wistfulness. I think I think it's part of her evolution from becoming less self-centered than she once was, or less wrapped up in the rivalry with her sister, to care about these two other beings, for lack of a group term for Janet and Jason, and to make sure that they're happy. But I also think her connection to Jason and his comfort with her, if we're going with your train of logic, is also seeding. I actually think there's something more for Tahani there. Now, whether Jason reciprocates it or not, I don't think is necessarily material, but they're still setting up a love triangle of sorts, not as strong or as obvious as Eleanor, Chidi, and Simone, but I still think that's kind of like the B triangle over here. I don't think Tahani will meditate on it. She doesn't meditate on much for long, but I think that's actually where they were going by the end of the season.
Yeah, I could see that. But again, it's one of those threads that didn't get really didn't get focused on too much. Probably because, as Krista was saying, they kind of marathon to the final episode like that.
Yeah, more of a sprint. They really did. I think, I don't know who said it, maybe it was you actually, Michael, the Void episode really kind of kicked everything into high gear for the rest of the season, and it kind of stayed at that level through the end of the season, but the first 8 episodes or whatever it was up until that point had kind of an up and down curve in terms of pacing. So that's for sure.
You know who we haven't talked about, but I feel like we should?
Who?
Derek? The other Hemsworth brother.
Yes,
Larry Hemsworth. He's feeling the shaft in his famous Hemsworth family. Can't be Thor in Hunger Games, I guess, so he's got to be Larry.
I like how it was one they actually like hinted at this, and like I want to say it's the second season. There's like someone's reading a magazine that mentions Tahani and Larry Hemsworth, and then they come back to it in the third season. So that was pretty awesome.
Wow, I did not remember that.
Yeah, I didn't pick that up either.
It's a little Easter egg. I can't remember in which episode it is, but there's an Easter egg where I want to say it's when Eleanor is in the supermarket. I want to say it's the last episode of the second season, and you can see in the background there's a People magazine, and it mentions Tahani, and I think it also mentions Larry Hemsworth. I could be wrong about this, and I feel like I have to do research, but...
No, I think you're right, because that same magazine, like the one that Eleanor is reading, on the back of it, there's an advertisement for snake juice.
Yeah.
From Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's a serious Easter egg that Parks and Rec and The Good Place exist in the real world is the same universe.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, snake juice became a thing, so John Ralphio made some money.
I know Michael said he hasn't watched this repeatedly, but I know others have. Who's watched this repeatedly?
Me and Selene.
And Kristen.
And Chris.
So
Diehards.
How many times have you watched it each?
Well, I haven't watched the whole thing repeatedly, so it depends on which episodes, I guess.
The third season I've only seen once.
Yeah.
But the first season I've seen like 6 times, and the second season like 4.
Okay.
Oh,
If
wow.
I go through background stuff, like if I'm doing something, like putting together a dresser or knitting or I don't
You
know.
need some background noise.
Yep, that's what I watch. In fact, it took me like 8 episodes of the first season to put together my dresser.
They're only, 22-minute episodes, so...
I was getting distracted a lot.
I've watched seasons 1 and 2 through twice as they were airing, and then once in repeat on Netflix. And then season 3 I've only watched once, so I'll go back and rewatch season 3 before season 4 airs, just so I'm caught up again.
So
Same with Kristen.
Okay.
I might have to go to all 3 seasons to revisit before the 4th one airs. Yeah, just to see if they're obviously because I've missed so much. You know, apparently I missed that one part where the experiment in the next season that's changed after I completely missed that. So I'll probably have to watch it again.
Well,
Yeah, and it does change your perspective too. Since you now know where everything is going, it's really interesting on what you can pick up as you rewatch it, knowing the end game. So season 1 is a totally different experience rewatching it when you know that, surprise, they're actually in the bad place.
Well, actually, I knew that when I watched the first season. I mentioned
I
the last
didn't.
episode. Yeah.
So I didn't know that. So it was a totally different experience watching it through the second time, knowing where they really were. And it made it more enjoyable.
Yeah, see, I said that too.
In a different way.
Yeah, if you recall from our last episode, Michael confessed that he first got introduced to The Good Place watching the season 1 finale when the twist was revealed, and then went back and watched the rest of the season. And so he knew the twist the whole time. So I guess
Motherforking shirt balls. This is the bad place.
Yes. So I guess my question for everybody but Michael, who's watched it repeatedly, is how much would you say they foreshadow or send Easter eggs or otherwise kind of pepper in? Because that is a very Lost-like feature as well. How much stuff do they layer in to sort of forecast what's coming ahead?
Don't remember. I know it was really well done and it was tricky. I think the biggest clue is that they aren't supposed to be there. Well, Eleanor, anyway. Because if it was truly a good place, they wouldn't have made a mistake. Well, with that whole infallible thing.
They do really drop hints. I remember from the first season, anyway. I remember they dropped hints about this being really the bad place, like literally from the first episode. Because there's that moment where Chidi in the very first episode says, "I'm in a place of paradise and I have a stomach ache." I mean, that's a huge clue right there. But that's all the way back in season 1. I don't remember anything from season 3 being an Easter egg or whatever.
And with the frozen yogurt, and with the river of clam chowder, and Eleanor was like, "What is this?"
Were there any Easter eggs or any dropped hints about the idea that you basically can't get into the good place anymore because of the points and the complications of modern life? I don't recall there ever being any dropped hints there.
No.
I mean, I don't think there were any dropped hints, but I think that they made it pretty obvious how ridiculously complicated it had to be for you to get high points to get into the good place.
I would almost like to argue that a lot of the demons were often being I don't know, just the way they talked about how ridiculous they thought it seemed that anyone thought they were good enough to get into the good place. Maybe it wasn't explicitly clear, but I thought that the demons were just so yeah, right, you're gonna get into, and not just because they're them, but I think because they don't think anybody could get in. But maybe I'm just looking into it too much.
Possibly, I don't know. I remember when that plot element was revealed, and people started like really digging down deep in order to figure out what happened in 14 whatever to figure, to be like, oh, what was the turning point why nobody got into the good place in the last 521 years. And I just remember people online were digging down deep and to be like, did something happen in 1480 whatever or whatever year?
Spanish Inquisition?
Yeah.
Nobody expects it.
No one suspects us.
Well, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
nobody expected it.
Nobody expects
Yeah.
it. That's interesting because I think I would like to do, although I wouldn't want to do it until after the series bows, is to go back and rewatch all 4 seasons and see how much of the end or the progression to the end was forecasted in those early episodes. Because I'm not going to catch the Parks and Rec Easter eggs. Stop your shock. I've not watched all of that show. I've not watched any of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. These are both yets because they've both been requested for the podcast. But at the same time, it just seems like they've probably done some other Easter egging, and we kind of talked about last time how, even in The Good Place, like all the delightful names on the shops and the things that you see in print that are not necessarily foreshadowing, but are clearly in-jokes and philosophical puns and all this other business. I mean, I just feel like they're probably hiding a lot of things in plain sight that we never would have caught on the first watch, but are probably there if you go back and watch it again, I think.
I can see that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So I know we've kind of hinted at the end, but I want to come back to it so that we can make a nice transition. At the end, they decide to run this experiment, the same experiment they started in Australia, but they're going to run it over again, and they're combining it with the Good Place aspect, the actual Michael's inception of the Good Place from season 1. They're putting it all together, mashing it up, and this is because they have figured out, as has been hinted along the lines, that the system is rigged. There's no possible way anyone, even when they have foreknowledge, like poor Doug Forsett, can get into the Good Place based on the point system that they've been using since the dawn of time. So because of that, they architect this new good-bad place in the medium place under Mindy St. Clair's watchful eye, and of course Derek comes back. Jason's real threatened by that because he confesses or says hi to his ex Janet, and then Janet creates progeny, quote-unquote, to populate the Good Place and all of that. And, of course, Michael has his panic attack. We find out about the different torture devices. But the biggest thing, the real end note for the season is that in order for Chidi to not destroy the experiment because of his discomfort with Simone being there, he asked that his memory be essentially erased, such that he does not remember falling in love with Eleanor again. He'll remember the other stuff, but he won't remember that they were in love like they found out from Michael this season. And of course they have this very lovely end moment where they're kind of watching the movie and he tells her that he knows she'll take care of him and all of that business. So what did you feel about the season finale? And other than what you've already kind of hinted at, do you have any predictions for season 4, the final season?
I thought the finale wasn't long enough. I expected it to be an hour long, and when it was only half an hour, it kind of floored me. I was like, oh wait, that's the end? There's not like another second half to the episode? Oh, okay. So it seemed, again, kind of like what Krista was saying, that it just kind of seemed like they rushed it a bit and seemed like I wanted more. But of course, I mean, that's exactly what they want you to think.
No, I felt that way too. They cut it off real quick, and I literally said, that's it? That was it?
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, same.
They really could have, we didn't have to go much further, but we could have at least gotten to like Tahani's party.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
That would introduce you to the 2 new people, whether or not that includes Chidi or not. And I feel like they wanted to save that for next season.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's part of the cliffhanger of what's going to happen in season 4.
I really was sad that we didn't get to find out who the other 2 people that Sean had picked to torture the group. I really wanted to know who they were.
Like the original ones?
Yes. I was really waiting to meet, like, I don't know, Eleanor's dad or ex-boyfriend that really screwed her up or something. I was really looking forward, or her mother.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised though if somewhere along the line in season 4, like a wrench gets thrown into the system and Sean is able to bring those two people in at a later date, that could be something I could easily see happening.
Sean is very wily, as is Trevor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Trevor.
Adam Scott's Trevor.
Oh, wonderful. You love to hate him.
I have a prediction, though, that somehow the doorman is going to become very important in the 4th season.
Yeah, the
I don't know how.
doorman! We haven't talked about the doorman, who's played by Mike O'Malley. For those of you
And he
who
loves
watched...
frogs!
Yeah, he loves frogs. He was on Glee. He was Kurt's father on Glee and other things. He's done other things, but Glee is probably his most famous. Yeah, he just kept letting Michael go down to earth on the same legal requisition form, which should have been suspicious.
And he loves frogs.
Yes, he loves frogs. So what do we think?
And
about
heaven
him?
smells like frogs, guys.
Oh yeah, that's.
I loved him. He was a great character.
Yeah, they got to do more with him than just being the doorman, or he's way more important as the doorman. There has to be more to it.
Actually would beg to throw in the wrench that the doorman is somehow like, I don't know, the god figure somehow, and that's what he was playing at, and he's going to come in having known this entire time it was rigged, and he needed Michael to figure it out, and that this is all a great elaborate scheme by the doorman. I think that's going to be my prediction.
Yeah, I keep waiting for there to be a god character at some point, and
Maybe the doorman is God.
season.
That's
Yeah.
what Selene
Oh.
said.
That'd be crazy. My mind is blown. I like it.
Bear me. That's the Tuesdays.
Yep.
I like it.
I would jump on board this because in some ways, now if you think about it, so for those of us who love the supernatural, he does have a very Chuck vibe.
Nah, I like him better than Chuck.
Oh, come on. Blasphemy.
Full disclosure.
Come on. Did you
Kelsey.
finish watching it yet?
No, not yet.
Don't talk to me.
It just made me watch the season finale, and that's all I've watched since like season 1 in random other episodes. Ugh.
Yeah, no. Don't want to talk to me right now about it.
Well,
We'll talk later
That
in that
episode
podcast.
is upcoming.
I know.
Well, Chuck was okay in
I
the past.
think
I'm
that
just
there
saying.
will be a very clear ending.
Yeah.
Do you
I think it's going to be.
Do you have any idea what
I mean,
it's going to be?
they are self-selecting to end, so they're driving at some resolution. I hope they don't go the lost route and it becomes some sort of dream. That would
Purgatory.
suck.
It was all
Wasn't
purgatory.
a dream.
It was all purgatory, despite their denials that it was purgatory. But that's for the Lost podcast that we'll eventually do someday and
I
rant
don't
on.
care enough.
You haven't
I
done
don't
it
care.
yet?
But anyway, maybe they are all in the medium place the whole time, and this is all Mindy St. Clair's acid trip. Like, I don't know.
Maybe.
Oh,
Do you think
maybe.
we'll get Mindy St. Clair when she was alive? Like, leading up to her whole revelation of what the thing that made her, the one saving element that made her somewhat good enough to be in the middle place?
Maybe,
Or
but,
the medium place?
maybe, but I don't think we necessarily need it at this point.
Yeah,
I think-
it's probably, that would be a distraction for the 4th season.
No, we know what she did.
Yeah.
We know what she did. We just didn't watch it.
Right, and because she died in the 80s, technically,
Yes.
that's probably why we won't see it. Number 2, she's not a main character, so why are we going to spend more time on her in such an in-depth way with only 13 half-hour-ish episodes left to go? I don't see it happening. She's there to serve a purpose on the side, but we're not going to get in-depth Mindy St. Clair in season 4.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm willing to bet she's going to somehow stumble in and cause a lot of mischief, though, in season 4.
Well, they did build it in her backyard.
They're in her backyard.
Yeah.
What if she's one of the 4?
The challenging 4.
The one.
What if she's like one of the 2 we haven't met yet?
Who
As
is
a way to get her to redeem herself and get onto the good place. I could see Michael choosing her.
What if they make a spin-off called Mindy's Place, and it's about her and Derek?
All the wind chime. All we would hear is wind chime.
I could see that as like a 5-minute YouTube video.
I would watch one episode of that as long as there's a cameo guest appearance of Janet.
There you go.
Not neutral Janet, but medium place Janet.
Well, really, any Janet is acceptable. Come on. Bad place Janet is totally fun. Medium place Janet is totally fun.
Doesn't Derek count as that then?
Yeah, sure, why not? I'm not married to anything. What did we
Janet playing Derek.
Oh,
man.
Janet what, Derek?
Janet playing Derek as Janet.
Oh.
That's a good place inception right there.
Yeah.
That would be weird.
I thought it was amazing how good she was at Jason. That was, I think, her best one, and I just was so into it.
I thought her Chidi was really good too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. She's so amazing. Come on.
Maybe just the way she said dog.
So, and this question is for Krista as much as everybody else. Although she wasn't on the first recording, I'm sure as you've been watching, grown to cultivate theories. Many thoughts and theories were discussed in our first 2 seasons. There were almost too many to list because you were literally like, what if it was this? And what if it was this? And what if it was this? So thinking back to what you might have personally thought, if you remember, might happen on the show, how accurate do you think you've been? Or are you still subscribing to those predictions and thoughts? Spend some time on this. Tell me take your own temperature as far as what you think is going to happen versus what has happened.
I think the show has surprised me, yeah. I've been surprised how the show has turned out. I didn't think they would recreate the bad place, quote-unquote good place, whatever you want to call it now, the experiment, the Michael's architect of the good place. That has surprised me. I'm still waiting for everyone to realize they absolutely positively need each other to be, I feel like there's been kernels of it, like, oh, we need to stay together, but they don't realize how much they absolutely need each other, it seems like. Unless I'm completely wrong. I don't know.
I was super, super wrong when it comes to my early predictions. After season 1, I thought, I never would have guessed that they would have rebooted it 800 times, for an example. So, in the end, I'm happy with the direction it went, and that they got a chance to redeem themselves, or at least attempt to redeem themselves. But, yeah, I'll be really curious moving forward now, how this all wraps up. And hopefully better than the first iteration.
I make no guesses. I'm at the point where the show has kept surprising me, and I'm not counting anything out at this point. So that's my prediction. Anything can and or will happen. But I do hope that we get a good resolution for the show. I hope it goes out on a good note, on a high note. And I feel like it will, because they are choosing to end it early when they could essentially keep it going. But I feel like they have a strong story in mind, and hopefully we won't be disappointed.
Agreed. I like that.
In terms of theories that I had that came true, I thought they were going to go to purgatory next, and instead they went back to Earth, which, one could argue is purgatory, but that's a whole philosophical question outside of what they've already talked about. In terms of theories I had, I was wrong, but maybe right, who knows. And I'm willing to bet that this next season, being as they are in the middle place trying to recreate something that they've already worked, but with different other people, will be actual not hell, but purgatory for them in trying to make it happen. So, middle place, purgatory, I think is what they're setting up this next season to kind of be, / whether or not they can make it happen, we'll see. But, knowing that they have the fate of all future human beings on their shoulders, I'm willing to bet that they're going to feel very crushed yet hopeful, which is, I dare to say, purgatory.
I don't remember any of my predictions.
I don't know that you had as many as your brother or Selene, but
probably not. I like to just sit back and enjoy my experience and just wait to see what happens. Yeah, I don't remember what I predicted, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure everything has surprised me so far. I definitely didn't see the twist at the end of season 1 coming. I know that. Yeah, so I'm kind of in the same boat as Kristen. Like, I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens.
I am too, quite honestly. I never would have expected. I mean, I remember watching the trailer for this show and being super intrigued, thinking it was the funniest 2 minutes I'd seen in a really, really long time. And everything that we've watched since that 2-minute trailer has really astounded me in all the good, really good ways, because it has been intelligent. They have put a lot of thought into it, and they have done a lot of setup for things that I never would have seen coming. The Janet void I never would have seen coming, and it was an amazing thing that happened and was totally creative, using the ensemble that they had, that kind of stuff. So I don't really know, but assuming they're going to come to an end. It was renewed for a 4th and final season, as Krista said. It's an actual end game. Aside from general predictions, how would you like to see the series end? Where do you think they'll end up at that proverbial fade to black?
Piggybacking off what Kristen said, I would like to see... I'm not sure they're going to defeat the bad place at all. I'm not even entirely sure they'll defeat Sean, but they're going to have to come to some sort of understanding that about humanity's place in the afterlife. And I think I want to see that philosophical thing be talked about. It's like, what is humanity's place in the afterlife? And is it going to be a good place, bad place, medium place, trichotomy, which I don't think is an actual word.
It is.
But, okay, there we go. Or is it going to be like the afterlife is just going to be a place? Is the afterlife a place to redeem yourself that you didn't get a chance to do in life? The afterlife is going to be a place to make yourself a better person or a better spirit, I guess. You know? I
could see Chidi getting on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
And like leading some sort of like classes and little philosophical schools.
And they'll have to come to, it'll have to be like a compromise between the good place and the bad place. They'll have to find a way to come to a compromise, which is going to be very hard, obviously, because Sean and his ilk are not going to want to compromise at all. They like how everything's going because nobody goes to the good place.
Maybe they'll have an overcrowding situation.
Well, it is probably something like 10 billion people, so, I mean, yeah, I could see that.
And the bad place, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then what happens?
I don't think they view that as a negative. They view that as another way to torture people, I think.
Yeah, I don't
overcrowding
know
for them.
Yeah, I don't know if overcrowding would actually help.
I'm just thinking of like as like a bureaucracy problem,
or like what if it's like, I don't know, like it is collapsing in on itself type thing because there's too many people or something.
That could be interesting. Like they have to come to a compromise because the bad place is at stake. Like the existence of the bad place is at stake. Yeah, interesting.
I guess, but Sean puts all those lackeys into blobbies, so I don't know, I don't know if that would be a thing.
Well, if Sean realizes his own mortality, much like how Michael did and had a nervous breakdown, maybe that's how Sean comes to the compromise at some point.
Yeah, but I don't know if Sean has any of the qualities Michael has in order to have that crisis of life. Because, I mean, who's going to send Sean to... Who's going to retire Sean?
That's true, yes.
At the end, Sean turns Michael into a caterpillar cocoon thing, and then Michael breaks out and turns into a beautiful butterfly. That's how the show ends.
Kelsey's doing this great big hippie fan arm thing. We have to make sure we describe it for the listeners who can't see this spectacle.
I would like it to end with all the accountants having to go to Earth to see how the point system affects them and realizing, oh shit, we need shirts. We need to reevaluate our point system.
Holy forking shirt balls.
Yeah, I'll jump on Selene's bandwagon there. I think she's onto something. I think maybe the ultimate goal will be them fixing the point system so it's not taking in all of those complicated extras that turn everything positive into negative. So let's say they reset the point system so it's clean and classic and you brought your mother flowers, you get 10 points. It's not about but the money actually went to a corrupt executive. It's you bought your mother flowers, you get 10 points.
I don't know if they can resolve that though. I feel like that would. I'm not sure this show can have a nice, pert, tie it with a bow ending. I feel like that would really, really be a huge, gigantic disservice to the show. I feel like there has to be an open ending somehow.
Well, I mean, if we don't see how the accountants refigure their accounting, we just see them being sent off to Earth knowing that they have to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's open enough.
I think so too.
Especially if you see a few demons, trying to make their way into it, Be like, I'm an accountant, totally. That's Trevor there.
I'm marginally concerned that somehow our Soul Squad is going to get split up in like a half of you made it and half of you didn't scenario. I hope they don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, but remember too, it's a comedy, and comedies usually end on a happy note, not on a sad, depressing note. It's a comedy, so it's gonna stick to the genre.
Right. I hope they do that.
Except for that time they made me cry in season finale.
Well, it will still be emotional.
Well, I think I agree with Michael's take that it's probably not going to be neat and pert and with a pink bow on it that says this is the answer. But I would be highly surprised, especially with the way they've trajectorized, that's not a word, with the way they have propelled our four main characters, our Soul Squad. I doubt very highly that wherever they end up separately. I think they will end up together. The question is, where will they end up? Will they actually achieve the good place? Will they be resigned to the bad place? Will the whole system collapse? Are we watching an afterlife system reboot in the not even just the accountants, but I'm like talking system failure, hard drive crashed, wipe out the whole thing and start over business? That's what
right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The apocalypse.
Yes,
They could really throw us for a loop and start us back at the very beginning where they all are just about to die in their little death scenarios, and that's where it ends.
But we already saw that with more.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they give us our semi-ending of, maybe there's a system reboot, and we end at their almost deaths, and we don't know what the ending is.
That's like a Sopranos ending. I don't want that.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, I was going to make that comment.
I don't want that.
I haven't seen The Sopranos, so I have no idea.
All this thing about you don't know what's going to happen to him. He's sitting in a bar. It cuts to black as people are storming on the bar, and that was it was the same kind of idea where you didn't know if he would live or die. You just knew that his life as a gangster would go on that way. Spoiler for those who've seen The Sopranos or have not seen The Sopranos, as it were. But that's a different podcast panel, which we haven't done yet, but may someday. So, well, this has been a very interesting set of theories. Before I ask the regular questions that end our time together, is there anything else you want to say about Season 3 or what you hope to see in the fourth and final season that we haven't already discussed?
I just want to give a shout out to the guest stars this season because they were all amazing. From like Mike O'Malley to Michael McKeon to what was the actress's name who was the postal worker?
Nicole Byer.
Nicole Byer.
Oh my God, she was amazing. But also Paul Scheer as one of the Good Place Council members. And just like all the guest stars this season were amazing. So I hope we have more amazing guest stars. Oh, and of course, the absolute amazingness that is Maya Rudolph as Jen. Just like, as soon as she was there in season 2 as Jen, I was just like, yes, thank you. You need to be in every episode.
She is
Earth is
delightful.
rough. Apparently I'm black.
Yes.
She was funny the first time she came around, but in all this talk about the experiment and all the things they kind of had to work through this season, she had some awesome one-liners.
Also, Black Friday in Michigan.
Yeah, right.
Everything's in Michigan, because Kristen Bell is from Michigan.
Represent.
Yeah. And go
She was
Blue.
here. I follow her on Instagram.
She was here when?
Her and her family were vacationing by the Traverse City area.
Yeah, they come back every summer and hang out in Lake Michigan, take their kids swimming because they're both from Michigan apparently. I think Dak Shepard's from here too.
Is
I think so.
I didn't know that.
Maybe? I don't know.
He's got a new show right now too, also on
But
BBC.
Yep, she always comes back once a summer, and they make sure that their kids go swimming in Lake Michigan, so they're real Michigan kids at heart.
Aww. Kristen Bell, if you're listening, come chat on our podcast next time you're doing your summer thing on Lake Michigan in the Traverse City area. Why don't you?
Yeah, they're both from the greater Detroit area.
Yeah, I knew she was, for sure. She is
Dak
also...
Shepard is, too.
Are you going to keep watching?
Yeah.
You better, because you only have one more season, and that's how this place works, you know. So would you recommend, as of the end of season 3, and there's only been 3 seasons, normally I save this, there's only been 3 seasons, would you still recommend The Good Place after the 3rd season?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely watch the show. It is, especially after the 3rd season, I think it'd be like, okay, now that we know where this is going somewhat, and there's this clear ending, now is the time to start watching, I feel like.
I've been recommending it ever since I've watched it.
Yep. Same.
Because, if people are, especially people who have been down on network TV lately, I'm like, there's a renaissance over on the Peacock. Watch The Good Place. It's just so smart and so well done that I'm really, really impressed with it. And I think you can kind of tell from sort of the excitement and enthusiasm, not one of these panel members has really descended into any sort of sustained negativity about the show. It really is just nitpicks and quibbles with certain things, but otherwise there seems to be a general consensus around the excellence and the quality of this program. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
Cool. Wow! Unanimous consensus. It's amazing. Anything else you want to say about The Good Place Season 3 or what you hope to see in Season 4? But
yeah, I think we're good.
I think we're good, too. So
I'm good.
Cool. So since we're all good, and Michael's particularly good, what I'd like to do is thank Krista, Kristen, Michael, Selene, and Kelsey for joining me to talk about The Good Place Season 3. Hopefully they'll be back to talk about The Good Place Season 4, but before we get ahead of ourselves too much, it's time for the credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation Point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kelsey Rezmer. Kelsey played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole kit and caboodle was engineered and produced by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give us stars, give us comments, give us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a message. We might just read it on the podcast. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what we should keep, what we should toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter at CPU Podcast, and Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We always have several more new episodes coming down the pike. Just listen to our intros, and if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find us. We are everywhere and searchable wherever you look for things on the internet. You can search for us, or you can subscribe at our website, our channels, our social media accounts. Stay up on our new events and episodes. Until the next time, Season 3 of The Good Place is available to stream. Well, actually, only Seasons 1 and 2 of The Good Place are available to stream on Netflix. We imagine Season 3 will shortly find its way there also, probably in advance of the premiere of Season 4, which, of course, airs on September 26, 2019 on NBC. But the last 5 aired episodes are available to stream at Hulu or at NBC's website or streaming app, so if you're really dying to catch up, keep your eye on Netflix. I would imagine about a month in advance of that premiere, you will see Season 3 appear in the little red icon on your various respective streaming devices. Not that they're paying us to say that or anything. Our Good Place panel then will next reconvene a final time at some point following the show's series finale. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Bye-bye.